My name is Quinn Vu, and I will be talking about the keto diet and diabetes. And before we can start, I don't have a presentation like I have because I don't have any way to present it. So it's just going to be me talking and explaining and trying to use visual cues as best as possible. But today we're going to be talking about specifically type 2 diabetes and its effects with the keto diet. And so we're going to talk about what the keto diet is, the controversies of the diet, especially relating to diabetes, and the best carbohydrates that can help prevent or control diabetes that are recommended for when you are having troubles with blood sugar. So what the keto diet is a diet with low carbs in the diet, including fruits. This includes fruits, whole grains, and some vegetables that you cannot have in the diet, or very small amounts, so it doesn't raise your blood sugar. And it can help control the blood sugar because your blood sugar isn't spiking so high up and down. Fat is usually where we're going to get our energy from. It's going to be very high in the diet, and it's going to be a mix of saturated and unsaturated fats. You can get this from meat, fish, nuts, plants, cheese, butter, animal products, and then a medium amount of protein. So before we start talking about the research studies and how controversial it is, let's talk about what you guys know about the keto diet and what you have learned from it, or what have you read and stuff like that. And so this is the part where I would go around and talk about, like, ask them if they've even tried it, and what reasons they tried it for, and the results, how did they feel during it, which would take about maybe 5 minutes. Okay, so before we begin, let's talk about the glycemic index chart. So how many of you know anything about the glycemic index? And then raise your hand. So if you haven't noticed, when you eat certain foods, your glycemic index in foods are very variable. So for example, eating like meat, it doesn't raise your blood sugar at all, so it doesn't have a very high glycemic index. But when we talk about like sweets, like candy, like eating straight up like a candy bar or a lollipop, it raises your blood sugar right away. And so what is the difference between those things? So we do have, people have developed like a chart to show you where foods stand in the chart. So it's kind of like a spectrum. So low glycemic foods are usually like 55 or below. And so like 55 is like the number of like how it rates, and anything below that, it doesn't raise your blood sugar very much. And then high glycemic indices of food are 70 or higher. So having this when you are diabetic or watching your blood sugar is really important, because you don't want your blood sugar spiking up considerably, especially when your insulin levels are not there because you are developing diabetes. So when it's too high and your insulin levels are too low, you are not going to get rid of that sugar fast enough, and actually can deteriorate your health. It can deteriorate your body functions. It's a lot of work on your kidneys because your kidneys are trying to get rid of it. And so keeping it low and not starving yourself or anything like that is really important. So a lot of the research we're going to talk about kind of goes over that, because that is like a really important index that researchers look at. And that's why people on the keto diet recommend it for people who are diabetic, because you're not having any carbs at all. And so the glycemic indexes of what you're eating are generally very low. And that's what you want to do when you are diabetic. So there is mixed research on if it is like a good cure, I guess, for diabetes. Research done on mice showed that the diet increased their lifespan. So the keto diet increased their lifespan A high glycemic index diet did cause obesity and cancer cells to grow even faster. And there's a lot of evidence that show that it does help with weight loss, decreases epilepsy, and shrinks cancer cells when you are on this diet. But there is evidence that showed that the diet caused increased cholesterol because you are on a very high fat diet, in which the increased cholesterol increases the risk of cardiovascular disease, and it's not sustainable for long term. There has been no evidence that's been brought out that say like the longer you're on this diet, the healthier you're going to be, or that this is even good for you. And a study showed that the long-term effect of the diet caused reduced insulin uptake. And insulin is the hormone that takes in your sugar that's in your blood. And so when that is reduced, that is what pretty much diabetes is. And so that all that sugar in your blood is, not getting absorbed by your muscles. And this could increase the risk of type 2 diabetes. So the research is very back and forth, and there hasn't been any conclusions yet that I have seen. Research does show that it is more important to consume quality carbohydrates than to just completely cut it out. So that means high fiber foods can reduce blood sugar levels. So the fiber actually can trap the sugar that what you have eaten and gets rid of it by excreting it. Foods that are more nutrient dense, so you get more bang for your buck. And then high protein foods keep you full so that you're not constantly eating, because carbohydrates, you do digest that pretty quickly, especially if there's no fiber in it, so you feel hungry all the time. And so you want more than just like a slice of cake, even though it's going to bring your blood sugar super high. So we're going to play a little game, and we're going to talk about these two different breads. Now this is called whole grain 12 grain bread. Okay, and then this is brioche. This is like my favorite bread of all time. Brioche loaf. So this is also similar to just like white bread. They have very similar taste. So I want to pass this around, and I want you guys to go over what characteristics that they are similar in and what they're different in. And so this is when I would pass it around, and so people would kind of like look, and then also look at the nutrition label and see the ingredients that are in each of these things, because they are very different and the calorie amounts are different. And so I would get them back and then talk about first how do they look different. So the 12 grain bread, people may say it's a lot darker and there's like speckles on it. And if I were to give you a slice of it, you can actually see the individual grains that are in it. And they actually add more grains, like that's why it's called 12 grain bread. And the nutrition, and then the brioche bread is very plain. It's white. It has a very similar texture throughout, and it smells different. Like this one has like a very distinct like fibery plant smell, and this one's like a very sweet smelling bread. And then we would talk about the nutrition labels, how nutrition for this one, like the fiber is like 4 grams per slice, it's 100 calories, and the total sugar is not very high. The protein is a lot higher. And then the brioche bread, there is 1 gram of fiber and 110 calories, and there's 3 grams of protein in it. So they're very different that way. And this actually has added sugar in it, while this one has a little bit. Actually they have the same amount of added sugar. But then I talk about how when you go shopping for groceries and you're looking for more foods that have a lower glycemic index, you want to look for foods that are like fibery foods, and so you can actually see the difference in each different foods. And these function the same. Like if you want to have a sandwich, you're not stuck with white bread or food like bread that has no nutrients in it. While you can get this bread, it tastes very similar, it's very good, it has texture in it, and it's going to make you way more full, keep you full, and it has a lot of vitamins and minerals that are missing in like white breads or not having it at all, and it's good for you. Even though this is a carb and it's not in the keto diet, this is not something you would consume at all because it has way too many carbs in it. But because of the fiber, it doesn't spike your blood sugar, and it'd be really good like when you are really hungry, so that you don't have to eat, like you can eat 2 slices of this in a sandwich versus like I could easily eat half of this in one sitting and not be full. And they can talk about like your different experiences or different foods that you can swipe out for more fiber foods, like tortillas. You can switch that out for more high fiber foods, and the fiber actually will make your stomach feel a lot better too. And like I feel like people are scared of like the taste and stuff, but the taste really isn't bad, and they're not all made the same. Like some of them have like certain flavors to it, or you don't taste it at all. Like this bread, I don't taste it at all. This is like the bread I eat every single day. And then we would just kind of talk about like the bang for your buck, nutrient packed foods. And so that means like even fruit. Like fruit has a lot of nutrients in it, but it has carbs. And so that's not something to be afraid of. And and fruit has fiber in it that can help you feel full. And so the keto diet is not necessarily something that you want to go towards if that was your goal, is to control your blood sugar. And I would ask any questions, which I imagine wouldn't take very long. And that would be it. And I would talk about my sources too if they asked, and show like other resources if they were wanting that.